Need to go rinse my face. We are live. Here we go. I'm going to start letting people in.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Got Victoria. That's exciting. Gustavo, April. Awesome.
Morgan, I just want to say to you, girl, you are persevering. You have been waiting a long time. We are glad you are here. Oh, shoot. Sorry, you guys. Didn't mean to send that to you all.
Well, it's a good cause, right?
Yeah, that's Rotary stuff. Sorry, everybody. I apologize for that. I guess my copy and paste, I'll try it one more time to see if it works. We'll see what happens. Otherwise, I'm apologizing. Oh, it happened again.
Yours, I guess.
All right,
Hi, Victoria.
type it all in.
Hi.
Nice to see you in person.
The same here.
Quick question: is this is gonna be Facebook Live in a minute, right?
No, this is being recorded and it will be posted later.
Okay, okay, okay. I was all right.
They will be sharing the link later.
Is this gonna be translated? No, right?
That's a Gabby question.
No. Oh, no. This session will not be translated unless Victoria wants to.
Oh my, no, I needed to get ready to do that. I'm really good, but I'm not that good. I gotta work on my vocabulary and get ready.
Yeah.
Plus, this is Victoria's session to kind of relax and be celebrated.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
we don't need to put her to work.
We weren't
Good idea, Gabby.
It is 1 o'clock.
Well, are you ready to get started or give it a minute? What would you like?
Lynn, do you want to get started? Are you ready?
We hear you typing. Yes, I'm ready to start when you are.
Cool. And kick us off.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. We're glad you joined us today to listen to our presentation on how women lead, the rise of women leaders, and the organizations they lead. So I'm Ann Patterson. I am your MC for this event, and I am a volunteer with SCORE. SCORE is a volunteer organization that helps support new businesses or small businesses with free mentoring. And so if you're interested in running your ideas by some of our SCORE volunteers, we're available at capefear.score.org. A lot of free resources available in the community and at SCORE. So we invite you to check that out when you're interested. Before we get into our session today, we have a final Business Spotlight Award to reveal, and that's Victoria Velazco. In case you don't know, Victoria and her company, VIDA Translations, have made it possible for MedWeek to be inclusive to the Latinx community. Victoria, thank you so much for putting so much time and effort into making sure our sessions can be offered in Spanish. Debbie, let's see her reveal.
Hi, my name is Gustavo Rodea from KFIR Region Minority Enterprise Development Week Recognition Committee. I'm here to present Victoria Velazco from VIDA, Familiar, Latina Magazine, the plaque of recognition of women-owned business in our area. Hola, soy Gustavo Rodea del KFIR Region Minority Enterprise Development Week Recognition Committee, el Comité de Reconocimiento. Estoy aquí para presentar una placa a Victoria Velazco de VIDA Familiar Latina Magazine por el reconocimiento de mujeres que son dueñas de negocios.
Thank you. Gracias, Gustavo. And thank you, Minority Enterprise Development Week's organizers, partners, and volunteers for working towards recognizing the achievements and contributions of local minority-owned businesses. Thank you for providing us opportunities for networking, workshops, and recognition for our hard work. I am honored for this recognition and particularly want to thank the Latin American Business Council, its co-chairs, you, Gustavo Rodea, Isabela Luján, and its board members nomination committee for all your hard work, dedication, and support to the Latinx businesses. Thank you, Medweek, for your statement that inclusion matters, minority-owned businesses matter, and women-owned business matter as well. Gracias a los organizadores, socios y voluntarios de este evento Medweek por trabajar para reconocer los logros de las empresas locales, minorías y brindarnos oportunidades para establecer contactos, talleres y reconocimiento por nuestro arduo trabajo. En particular, quiero agradecer al Consejo Empresarial Latinoamericano, a sus copresidentes, a usted Gustavo Rodea e Isabela Luján, a sus miembros de la Junta Directiva y especialmente al Comité de Nominaciones por todo su arduo trabajo, dedicación y apoyo a las empresas Latinx locales.
Thank you for all you do in the community and congratulations. Gracias por todo lo que haces en la comunidad y felicidades.
Gracias.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's now time for Lynn Whitesell to begin the presentation. I think she'll introduce herself and launch into our presentation today. Lynn?
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I'm assuming that I'm sharing here.
Yes, looks good.
Okay, great. Well, I am Lynn Whitesell, and I am so happy to be with you here today to talk about Am I muted or unmuted?
Unmuted.
All right. So again, I'm Lynn Whitesell, very happy to be with you here today to talk about how women lead, the rise of women leaders and the organizations that they lead. I am co-founder and managing partner of Harris Whitesell Consulting. And with me here today as well is Lori Harris, also co-founder and managing partner of Harris Whitesell Consulting. And we at Harris Whitesell Consulting are very excited to be a part of MedWeek. Our specialty and what we really specialize in is helping people and teams and leaders who are very successful become even more successful. So help them maximize and optimize. We do collaborate on several things with UNCW and are proud and happy to be part of MedWeek today. So with that being said, we'll get started. You're probably here attending this session because you want to move forward in a purposeful, powerful, and productive way. How do you go about doing that? Well, I'd like to acknowledge the work of Marshall Goldsmith and the work of Sally Helgeson. And the presentation of what we'll be talking about today will capture many of the components or some of the components of their books. Talking about Sally Helgeson a little bit, well, she is the gold standard when it comes to women's leadership. She had a groundbreaking book back in 1990 called The Women's Advantage that is still in print today. And this one has been out for a couple of years. And if you haven't read it, the 12 habits that we'll be talking about today come from her book. They've also been validated over decades by many coaches like me and coaches like Lori and members of our team, working with leaders, both women leaders and men leaders. And we have many examples of each of the habits that we'll be talking about that we have personally helped coach through and work through. Also, another book that we'll be looking at some of the components today is Marshall Goldsmith's. This is a gold standard book. What Got You Here Won't Get You There. If you haven't read either of these books, I really suggest that you do. I have just a few that I recommend, and these are definitely two of them. But basically, women face specific and often different roadblocks from men as they advance in the workplace. And the very habits that help women early in their careers can hinder them as they move up. And what got you here may not get you there. And you might not even realize the blind spots that you have until it's too late. There are a few hard truths that we'll be addressing today. Women, unintentionally, we hold ourselves back in our careers. As I mentioned, Lori and I do coaching among various other things to help successful people and organizations become even more successful. Coaching is one of them. We are women leaders. We've been women leaders within the corporate world, and we've been women leaders as entrepreneurs and business owners. And we really realize, and we live, this is our truth as well, that women unintentionally hold themselves back in their careers. A real obstacle to women's advancement can be self-imposed roadblocks. And we're going to look at what some of those might be. And we know that women must seek challenges, take risk, and pursue their goals with gusto. And we'll see a habit that can make us maybe a little more risk adverse than we need to be. There's a conundrum in that many of the behaviors that are most prized in women socially, those expectations of us that are ingrained socially, are the same behaviors that could hold us back and probably will hold us back professionally. It makes it a little bit hard. So how do we recognize and free ourselves from the hidden behaviors that are sabotaging career success? And how do you reconcile competing demands and motivators without losing your identity, professionalism, or power? Hopefully we'll begin to answer those questions as we go through this seminar today. There's another book that I didn't mention, but it's one by Rebecca Shambaugh. It's called It's Not a Glass Ceiling, It's a Sticky Floor. And this idea of being stuck. Sally Helgeson also talks about being stuck. And how do you know if you're stuck? Well, think about this. If you feel something is preventing you moving forward or from leading the life that you're supposed to be living or that you want to be living, maybe you're stuck. If you don't feel able to break through circumstances and you feel like they're conspiring to hold you down, you may be stuck. If you feel that your contributions in the workplace or maybe even at home are not recognized, you're probably stuck. And you feel that people around you have no idea what you're capable of achieving, and we'll talk about a habit that could cause that to be true. Again, that's another symptom of being stuck. Being stuck can seem circumstantial. It could seem like it's the result of a situation or it's the fault of somebody who has power over you or leverage over you. And there may be a part of that that could have a degree of truth, but what we really have to do is look inward. And we have to consider the ways that we might be keeping ourselves stuck. Our responses help shape our circumstances, and our behaviors shape how people respond to us. So it's really about knowing ourselves and knowing how the way we behave and the way we respond impacts others. And really understanding that can help us get different responses and different interactions with people. And that's why being able to identify these behaviors is very important. To get unstuck, we have to let go of behavior that's no longer serving us. And that sounds easy, but it's not. And the reason that it's not is it's because of habit. Anybody ever tried to quit a habit? I'm sure you have. Whatever that habit might be. And in order to stop that habit, we have to bring it to our conscious awareness. That's the first thing we have to be aware of it. So in today's seminar, there should be some aha moments. There should be some self-awareness that's happening. You should really be maybe thinking about things in a different way or seeing things that you've never thought about before. And that's the whole purpose. In an hour, we can't unpack all of this and identify everything and really start digging in, but we can make you more self-aware and start the progress and the process of that for you. Doing that can feel awkward. You know, we can feel dangerous. We can feel vulnerable or foolish and exposed, but doing that works, and it's worth it. It's worth it because of the energy that it unleashes and the confidence that it unleashes that makes it easier for us to keep up the effort. So if you think the habit of, think of a habit of, I don't know, eating a snack every night, even though you know it's not good for you and you probably shouldn't, especially during times of pandemic. And you want to, you have to be very conscious and aware, and you have to stick with it. Part of a reason a habit is so hard to break is the neurons in your brain have gotten accustomed to it, and it thinks it's what it's supposed to be doing. Changing is hard. Changing a habit is hard. Resistance to it is a very, very powerful force. If you've never read about resistance and why it's so hard to change, you might want to do that. Your brain is fighting you back. It's actually sending you very urgent signals that there's some familiar cues missing, and you need to do whatever it is that you've always done, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. And your brain keeps sending you those messages, and you have to resist. And that resistance can be very, very difficult to do. Successful people, and I would assume that each of you on the call today are probably very successful people. It's particularly hard for you to change behaviors, specifically because you are successful. So successful people are particularly skillful at coming up with rationale to continue those workplace behaviors that used to work for them, but they're not working for them anymore. And simply because these behaviors seem to have worked in the past, so surely they'll work in the present. And some of them may, and some of them may not. Marshall Goldsmith has something he calls the success delusion around this. And that is like this. It says, I behave this way. I am successful. Therefore, I must be successful because I behave this way. And in actuality, you may very well be successful in spite of the fact that you behave this way. And the more successful you become, the more promotions you get, the more accolades you get, the more hype there is around you. Guess what? The more you may buy into that. And as you buy into that hype and all those positive comments and whatnot, you may become even more delusional. So resistance is a powerful, powerful force. There are 3 stages of change resistance. And let me start this by saying we're going to talk about differences between men and women. Men and women are different. Men and women are both inherently good. This is not a session to bash men in any way. This is a session to point out how we're different. And throughout the last 100 years, in the workplace, in leadership teams, specifically in senior leadership teams, it has been 80% or more of males. So a lot of the expectations of leaders are founded in how men behave. And that's some of the obstacles us women have to face is how do we need to behave, and how do we use our habits to our best advantage, or realize habits that are holding us back. Marshall Goldsmith is number one leadership thinker in the world. He's been doing executive coaching forever with senior leaders throughout all kinds of organizations. And he'll tell you that the basis of his book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, which I've been using myself in leadership development since it came out, basically. But it is founded, most of the people that he worked with throughout that time period were men. So the 3 stages of change resistance, more typical of men. In stage 1, a man will typically decide whoever is suggesting that he needs to change must be confused. Compared typically a woman, if somebody suggests they need to change, they react to the suggestion by feeling discouraged or undervalued, or it can be quite painful. They get to thinking about, hey, what did I do? And they become paralyzed with that. Men, the second stage, after they think somebody must be confused to be bringing that up, then they begin to recognize that while in general the suggestion about change might be valid, the critique doesn't apply to him, because if it did, how could he be so successful? Women, on the other hand, begin to consider why whoever offered that assessment may have made it. Were there any valid grounds? What were the circumstances? What did the critique have to do with her? Did it have anything to do with her being a woman? So a woman internalizes it. A man is externalizing it. A woman is internalizing it. So the third phase of resistance, change resistance for a man, the man might attack whoever suggests he needs to change something about himself. He may blame the messenger, and this enables him to continue buying into his own rationale that the person must be confused. Women, on the other hand, will start to examine, we'll examine our own behavior. What kind of role could we have played in shaping the perspective? What better we have done or not done? What could we have done differently? Instead of focusing on the messenger, we focus on our own actions. Both of these have pros and cons. Both of these, but these are typical. Remember here throughout, when I say more typically of men and more typically of women, some women followed what's more typically of men, and some men what's more typically of, I'd say the 80-20 rules here, and in some cases even higher than that. Our beliefs also shape our resistance. More typical of men tend to be more overconfident. They have succeeded, they should succeed, they have the power to succeed by doing what they've always done. They view ambition is ambitious, and they view success as inevitable because of their hard work and their brilliance. And, good fortune or good luck and other people play minor roles, if any. It's really about their own power to be successful. That can lead to high resistance to any kind of change. And it can lead to also, on the pro, an optimism that others can find very magnetic, and resilience, ability to weather setbacks and failures without giving way to paralyzing doubt. More typical of women in our belief systems, some of our beliefs and some of men's beliefs are limiting beliefs and some are empowering beliefs, but more typical of women's beliefs are that we fight to maintain our confidence. Overconfidence in a female, it doesn't not exist, it does. We have come across that in coaching. It's rare. Overconfidence in women is rare, where it is common in men. Women typically believe that ambition is a bad thing. They view it as being arrogant or self-centered, and they will rationalize resistance by choosing to believe the negative judgments that they have about ambition. Women might typically be resistant to separate their own interests from the expectation of society or others. There's a lot of expectations of women, you know this, that society has for us. And it can be difficult for us to separate our own interests from those, from societal expectations. Also, lack of confidence. When we have lack of confidence in ourselves, the direct correlation of that is that others have lack of confidence in us. So we must have confidence in ourselves for others to have confidence in us. So in that way, that is a limiting belief. There are 12 habits that we're going to talk about that hold women back. The 12 habits that we'll discuss in just a couple of slides here, they are from the book, How Women Rise. How Women Rise, Break the 12 Habits Holding You Back from Your Next Raise, Promotion, or Job, from Sally Helgenson. I want to go ahead and give that credit right there. Some of the examples we'll use are our own. We certainly have run across in our coaching all of these habits. Sometimes, men can have these habits as well. Here are some important leadership competencies, and these particular leadership competencies can be found in Marshall Goldsmith's What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Also in some of the 360 assessments that we do that are correlated with Marshall Goldsmith. So integrity, encouraging constructive dialogue, creating that shared vision and developing people and building partnerships, sharing the leadership with others and empowering people, and enterprise-wide thinking and global thinking, appreciating and requiring diversity, ensuring customer satisfaction, maintaining a competitive advantage, achieving that personal mastery, anticipating opportunities, and leading change. All of those are important leadership competencies. So one thing I want to say about leadership competencies, you can actually use one, and one I can think of is achieving personal mastery, and we'll talk more about it, to the detriment of others. So there has to be a balance as well. But these are competencies that you must master as leaders. And I don't know if you ever thought about it, but there are bad habits that can hold you back from achieving these competencies, from becoming fully confident in them. Habits that get in the way of successful people. And What Got You Here Won't Get You There, Marshall Goldsmith talks about 20 habits. And remember, his work was based on all of his coaching that he'd done over a couple of decades. And it just happened to be mostly men, because that was who was in the leadership positions that he was coaching. Of those 20, the 12, I believe it is on the left, they are more typical of men. Adding too much value, passing judgment, destructive comments, beginning with no but or however, that negativity, or let me tell you why it won't work, withholding information because information is power, so I'm going to keep it for myself, making excuses, clinging to the past, playing favorites, not listening, pursuing them, punishing the messenger, and an excessive need to be me. This is me, this is who I am, take it or leave it. Instead of, this is me, this is how I am, but you need something different, so let me figure out how a better way to interact with you is. But women can also fall prey to those bad habits. It's more typically men. Of the 20 bad habits from Marshall Goldsmith, the ones on the right are more gender neutral. These more typically apply to women as well as men, of the 20 that he started with. Winning too much, telling the world how smart you are, claiming credit that you don't deserve, failing to give others proper recognition, using anger as a management tool, refusing to express regret, failing to express gratitude, and passing the buck. Those are habits, again, that affect both men and women. The ones on the right are more gender neutral. But in looking at these, and I've done a lot of coaching, Lori and I have, around these, it's been just a couple of years ago that Marshall Goldsmith partnered with Sally Helgen to say, let's really look at the habits that hold women back. Instead of just gender neutral, let's look at the habits that hold women back. And based on all of their research, all of their coaching, everything they had, these are the habits that were identified. These are in no particular order. There's just 12 of them. These are the habits that get in the way of successful women. We're going to talk about each and every one of these. As we talk about each and every one of these, realize that all of them are not going to apply to you. You won't look at all 12 of those and say, this is me. But you will have aha moments. You will identify 2 or 3 that you say, yes, these are me. These apply to me. That's where you start. And we'll talk about how to get started. So as we go through these, be thinking about yourself and your bad habits. We all have them. First one is reluctance to claim your achievements. I'm just going to state them here because about them. Expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward your contributions. Overvaluing expertise. Just building rather than building and leveraging relationships. Failing to enlist allies from day one. Putting your job before your career. The perfection trap. The disease to please. Minimizing. Too much. Ruminating. And letting your radar distract you. So these, again, there can be, some of these may apply to men. They typically don't, but they may. But they do apply to women. So let's talk about the first one, reluctance to claim your achievements. Women are really good. As a matter of fact, we're best at getting the job done. And worst at bringing attention to the visibility of our successes. And this one may or may not apply to you, but in general, this is a habit that women can fall into. Why? Because we believe that the great work we're doing should speak for itself and we shouldn't have to point it out. We don't desire to behave like that blowhard down the hall that does anything they can to get noticed. That's the way we perceive it. That's our perception of that. Habit of turning the spotlight onto other people feels like a gracious way of responding and very much in line with how we are raised to be modest and self-effacing. Speaking up about what you contribute and detailing why you are qualified doesn't make you self-centered or self-serving. Read that one again. Speaking up about yourself and your value and what you bring to the table does not make you self-centered or self-serving. If you don't find a way to speak about your value of what you're doing, you send a message that you don't put value on it. Think about that. If you don't find a way to speak about your value, the message that others are receiving from you is that you don't put much value on what you're doing. So on this one, a little tip that we've written here is to get started, because here's something here. Is this you? Somebody gives you a compliment. Great job on that XYZ project. And your response is, oh, it was easy. My team was great. And you go into an explanation or you minimize it or whatever. Just try doing this. Thank you. And move on. Try just saying thank you and zipping the lip. I had one particular senior leader that I worked with. This was really, really hard for her because she so wanted to share the spotlight. She so wanted to share the spotlight that the light was not shining anywhere on her. She was in the shade. She was forgotten. And she was passed over for a senior management position, a chief officer position, actually, that she really had earned and desired, but she'd never let anybody know she desired it. And furthermore, they didn't know much about what she was doing because she was putting the spotlight on everybody else. Yes, the spotlight can go. You can share the success, but that doesn't mean you diminish your own success in that. Another habit, bad habit, expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward your contributions. Boy, women, we can be martyrs. They should just see it. They should know. I shouldn't have to tell them. This is similar to habit one there. And habit one, together with this one, expecting others to spontaneously notice and reward us, these are the reasons we're under-recognized. And by the way, we are unrecognized. There's many, lots of research, and I have lots of personal experience, and we, Harris Whitesell Consulting has lots of experience in this. Women are under-recognized. They're stuck. Part of it is because of their own bad habits. Women tend to focus on their work rather than effectively communicating what they're doing. And with women, what we can sometimes do, how we sometimes feel, is either or. I'm either focusing on my work or getting it done, or I'm communicating. Are you saying you want me to quit focusing on my work? Because I'm not going to do that, because that's very important. It's not an either or. It's just like the one here, where it says we don't want to be the blowhard down the hall calling attention to themselves. So it's either or. If I'm highlighting something valuable that I've contributed, then I'm a blowhard. I have to be either or. And so we have to get out of the either or mentality that we get ourselves stuck in here. This gets interpreted as a lack of commitment to grow within the company. There's been a number of times in working with women leaders, again, where they were passed over for a promotion. And when we spoke to the team that was making the decision on who was to be placed in that position, it was really more around, I had no idea Ann was interested. I didn't know, but Frank's been telling me since the first day he was on the job that he's gunning for this, and this is what he wants to do. Well, women, we don't do that because it seems self-serving and not something that we want to do, but our male counterparts are being very clear. Another example, I was working with a team of top performers, and the CEO was speaking to the group, and he was talking to men and women, but he was talking directly to women. When he said this, he said, I was hiring for a COO position. And there was one female I particularly wanted to apply, and she didn't. I reached out to her to say, please, I want you to apply for this. And her response back was, but I'm not qualified. There were 5 items that you're requiring, and I'm only really good at 4. And the 5th one, I need development. I'm not qualified for this position. And he was telling this group of top performers, don't do that. He said, I had men beating my door down that only had 1. They only had 1, and they felt completely, why aren't you hiring me? Why am I not being promoted into this? And the woman who, had 4 out of 5 was saying, I'm not qualified, so I'm not even going to go for it. And not going for it can be interpreted as you're not interested in it. You're not committed to the company. You're not committed to growing within the company, so you're not going to. That's how it can be interpreted. It's not your intention, but it's how it can be interpreted. Not making desires known is a top reason that men are promoted earlier and more often than women. So what can you do here? A little tip, start by articulating a vision of where you want your job to take you. That should be your job, not our job. So start with articulating a vision of where you want your job to take you. Overvaluing expertise is another habit that women fall into. We try to master every detail of our job. That's a great strategy for, guess what? Keeping the job you have. This is a situation where what got you there here won't get you there. When you start in a company, when you start in a career, you have to learn the details and become a master of it. But as you move up in leadership, you have to let go of that mastery to gain those leadership skills. Higher level leaders require managing and leading people who have expertise, not providing the expertise yourself. Here is something I heard said to a leader I was working with. You wouldn't be here if you weren't a good lawyer, but you're not here to be a good lawyer. You're here to be a leader. That's your job. Concerned with becoming a better and better lawyer. It was a different area of law and legal, but she wasn't hired to be that expert. She was hired to be the leader. So it's rare to get promoted because you've done your job flawlessly. You're more likely to get promoted because people know you, they trust you, and they know that you could be contributing at a higher level. And because you demonstrate that you're ready for a challenge. That's the reason. Habit 4, just building rather than building and leveraging relationships. We are great as women. We're great at building relationships. Most of us, again, stereotyping, I know, but most women are really great at building relationship. This serves us as a source of emotional fortitude, long-term resiliency, everyday joy. We get joy from this. We get joy from relationships. We are not great at leveraging relationships. So if I'm going to be vulnerable with you, and I'm going to tell you which of these habits is one I continue to work on and work on it with Lori because she coaches me on this one. is we have to leverage our relationships. And leverage just basically, the underlying premise of that is you help me and I help you. We're uncomfortable with that. I know I personally am, because I don't want others to think that I'm using them. So people that I might have worked with and had great coaching relationships with, or great development relationships with, who have really given a lot of positive feedback about what has happened, I've been really reluctant now as a business owner to reach out and say, hey, you help me, I'll help you. It's been very uncomfortable because I didn't want them to feel used. And it felt self-serving, but it's not. It's not political. It's not self-serving. Being able to use leverage appropriately is a leadership skill that is absolutely needed. We have to do it. And we have to change our frame of mind of it being a negative thing to it being a positive thing. Look at the other part of that. You help me, and what happens? I help you. I help you. So it's a win-win on that one. So a tip, consider how to bring your skills for forging deep connections into play as you seek to become more intentional in building relationships that can be advantageous to you in the future. Habit 5 is failing to enlist allies from day one. Many women who assume new positions, think about yourself, the last time you were promoted into a new position, you had a lot to learn. It was, something new, lots of new information. What you might have done, and what women might typically do, is hunker down, master all those details, and then seek, after you feel, very confident and prepared, then you'll reach out and make relationships. Men don't do this. Men, by contrast, you put them in a new position, the first thing they do is start reaching out for their network, reaching out from day one of who can give them support, who can help them have better position, who can give them greater visibility, who can give them less isolation in the job. Ultimately, just as an aside, they also end up doing less work as far as, learning all the details and whatnot. Again, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm saying this is a habit that can hold women back. We get stuck in the weeds, and that's ill-advised. As you move up the leadership career, you can't get stuck in the weeds. You have to reach out support when you most need it, and you most need it at the beginning. And by reaching out to others first, here's a tip, reach out to others first. Don't wait for them to reach out to you. Be proactive, reach out. Habit 6, putting your job before your career. We're smart. We're talented, we rise, we reach a level, and we stop, and we blame the hierarchy, or we blame whatever. We blame the circumstance, we blame this is the way it's always been, and there may be some truth to that. But there is also, we have to look inward as well. Lots of times what happened is loyalty. Women tend to have a lot of loyalty. And when they say putting your job before your career, we're loyal to our job. We're loyal to our teams. We're loyal to our employees. And that loyalty itself can keep us from looking out for our career, because we're looking out for the job and the people in the job that we're in right now. And it can cause us to sacrifice our own ambitions and sell our talent short and our potential short. It sometimes is hard. I know when we've been working with particularly women leaders, we've seen where it's very hard for them to take, we have a situation right now where they're offered a better position with more pay, doing more of what they want to do, and they're really considering whether to do it or not. Guess why? Well, I just took this position 3 months ago, and I would feel really bad about leaving them now. And we're like, okay, the thing you need to do is to consider your career here. Consider your career. So women who use their jobs as a way to avoid thinking about their careers often have a problem admitting to ambition. The world needs ambitious women, and why not you? Why not you? Can we change the way we think, our mindset about what ambition is. Don't wait for opportunities. Look for opportunities. Go out in search of opportunities. And don't fall into the perfection trap either. Striving for perfection may help you get to where you are. You have to have a certain, it has to be quality. Absolutely. You have to have accuracy. Perfection, though, is not achievable in the long, it's not sustainable. It's going to be very disappointing. And it's going to keep you riveted on details, and it's going to distract you from the big picture orientation. Guess what's needed of leaders as they rise? Big picture orientation. So if you're so buried, we talked about being buried in the weeds, but if you're buried in the weeds, you're buried in the details, you can't pick your head up and look out. Women and leaders grow into leadership roles by getting rid of detail and becoming broader rather than deeper. You grow let's say you're in the scientific field, you grow in the silo of your technology by growing deeper. We all need senior scientists. An executive is not a senior scientist. They may be a senior scientist, but now they got to get broader. They have to understand the whole company. You have to understand the whole, everything that's going on. And you can't do that if you're still trying to become the senior most scientist. So you have to learn to let it go. Perfection also limits creativity and innovation. Why? Because in searching for perfection, then mistakes are not allowed. And I promise you, innovation is not going to happen if mistakes are not allowed. Mistakes have to be allowed. Even high achieving women tend to take failure deeply to heart. It hurts us. We hurt. We literally physically feel it. We get tangled up in blaming ourselves and stewing over it. Have you ever done that? Stewed over it. What did I do? What did I not do? Gosh, that was a silly thing I said. Why did I say that? Why didn't I say that? Why did I make that mistake? How did that happen? And it just festers and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger as we're seeking that perfection, and we're looking and we're blaming ourselves. Most perfectionists lack two skills: delegation and prioritization. Most perfectionists don't delegate for the reason. There's lots of reasons leaders don't delegate. We can unpack that in a whole nother time. But if you're a perfectionist, you don't delegate because you think somebody else can't do it as good as you can. When I was growing up, my next door neighbor, they had somebody who came in, a housekeeper. Well, my family, we didn't have such a thing. We were the housekeepers, I promise you that. But they had a housekeeper, and her mom was very, very, the beds had to be made specifically in a certain way, absolutely, no doubt. And the children were not allowed to make their own bed. So this is going to seem like I'm making this up, and I'm not. She went away to college at the age of 17 or 18, whatever it was, and she had no idea how to put sheets on a bed. She had never done it because she'd never been allowed to do it, because that mistake could not be made because it had to be perfect. And that's a silly example, but a real example. If you have perfectionist tendencies, start by learning how to delegate, learning how to prioritize, and get comfortable with making measured risk. If you're a perfectionist, any risk is going to feel very uncomfortable. But it's risk versus benefit, and being able to do that risk versus benefit analysis and get out of analysis paralysis. Perfection puts you in analysis paralysis, and that's what affects your ability to prioritize things. The next habit is the disease to please. I think this is the most common one for women, is the disease to please. It can be poisonous. It can be poisonous to your career. It can be poisonous to your life. People pleasers have a deep-seated need to be liked and to be reviewed as caring or giving. And as a matter of fact, it can cause some of these other behaviors because we are actually being judgmental about those behaviors. We're being judgmental and judging it as not being caring. It becomes detrimental when it overwhelms other important considerations we need to be making. Here's a sign you're a people pleaser. Do you routinely say yes to things even though you really don't? There's no way. Now you have 5 jobs instead of 4. You really only need 1, kind of thing. Do you routinely say yes to things that's going to eat up your time and you're not going to get a lot of benefit from it? Are you the person who ends up commiserating with people who seem to be enjoying complaining, who are just miserable, want somebody to complain with, and you wonder, what in the world am I doing to attract them? Well, you're a people pleaser. So other people are turning them away, but you're not. So they're going to keep coming to you, and they're going to tell somebody else who wants to complain that, hey, Lynn's a good person to come complain with. But it's a time that's sucking your time away. You try to do it all at home and at work. And this is, gosh, so especially true for women. I have nieces and nephews. Well, I'll talk about the nieces who have children. And it seems to be a game. It seems to be, I don't understand these days why, you look at Facebook, you look at social media and the birthday parties for 1-year-olds, and this friend has to one up that friend. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Rent out Disneyland? I don't know what you can do to be better at this. Let it stop. Let the insanity stop on that kind of thing. You can't do it all at work and at home. People pleasing impacts your ability to make clear decisions because it undermines that. You're always trying to split the difference among the competing needs in hopes of creating a consensus or avoiding offending somebody. You want to be the best in the world, do everything there is to do and not say no and please everybody at work, and you want to do the same thing at home. And you end up just overwhelmed. You have a hard time letting go and delegating, and because of that, you get spread too thin. And guess what? Because of that as well, your employees are not being developed. Because you may be thinking, oh, they're so busy. I can't possibly delegate this to them because I can't do that to them, because you want to people please. I can't give that to them. They're so busy. So I'm just going to do it myself. Well, you're not learning a thing from doing it, but they would. And guess what people want more than anything? Guess what your employees want? They want to be developed. And if you don't develop them, they're going to leave. They're not going to, they want to be developed. But by not delegating, if you want to think of it you think of it as being selfish to delegate to somebody who's busy. How about being selfless? Here's what you do. You delegate that thing you're not learning from anymore, not the thing that you just don't want to do anymore, but the thing that's taking your time that you're not learning from. But Sally would. Sally could really learn from this. Boy, it could really help her career. So Sally, look, I'm going to delegate this to you. I'm going to make sure I set you up to succeed in this. But before you do this, Sally, guess what? You got to pick something that you're no longer learning from, and you have to delegate that. Wow. That's how a development culture gets going. That's how people become very engaged in their jobs. That's how your culture really becomes this development culture. And that leads to bottom line results. It really does. By thinking long and carefully about your priorities, that's how you can begin. What do you want? Not what does everybody else want. What do you want? Not what would please them, but what do you and your heart want to do and achieve? What is that? Only you know that. Another habit, we minimize. We practice making ourselves smaller. Work with a female executive who would get in a meeting, and I will say it'd be 8 men and 1 female. She was the female. And immediately she'd make herself smaller. She'd diminish her voice. She didn't even know she did it. Her voice got small. She'd draw herself in. She'd move aside. If a guy walked in and wanted to sit down somewhere near her, she would move aside and give him the space. And that was a habit that she had of minimizing that was really, really impacting the power that she was perceived to have. And we worked long and hard on that. Do you do this? Do you routinely apologize and use the word I'm sorry? I'm sorry that it's raining today. I'm sorry that hurt you. I'm sorry, but I need to ask. I'm sorry you're not sorry. Stop saying it. If you say all those I'm sorry's all the time, you're minimizing yourself. And plus, people don't believe you. You're not sorry for everything. You can't possibly be. We use verbal discounters and minimizers. We say, I just need a minute. I have one tiny correction I'd like to make. Can we have a quick conversation? All of those are diminutive words. Have you ever thought about that? It's really taking away your power. I just want to add this little thing. Minimizing. Stop it. Too much. This is the other one, another bad habit. Men are less emotional than women for the most part. Women are more emotional than men for the most part. What you're feeling is not the problem. Speaking in the grip of that strong emotion that you're having, that's the problem. Guess why? Because your perception may be distorted. You may overstate your case. You may come across as out of touch, out of control. You're not going to be able to calibrate your response. Feeling is not a problem. Reacting to what you're feeling in the moment That is the problem. It squanders your power. Too many words. Look at this. Women speak 20,000 words a day. Men speak 7,000. 7 compared to 20. At work, this looks like speaking in many sentences instead of bullets. People, do you ever do that? You tune out, it's too many words. You're planning your vacation now, what's for dinner, who's going to pick up the kid at daycare. You know, you're planning all that while somebody's still, you're like, blah, blah, blah. You know, this is what you're thinking. Obscure the main topic with side observations, over-explaining things, chatting during awkward pauses, not being comfortable with pauses. You start everything with a backstory. Well, again, others can lose interest fast. So you really, it's a skill to practice to be concise, and that does take preparation and practice. How about too much disclosure? Women tend to do this because they assume it's building that good relationship they want to build. And it could just be perceived as TMI, too much information. Don't really need or want to know that. Ruminating. Both men and women derail themselves by clinging to the past, but we do it different ways. Men blame others for what's gone wrong. They make excuses for themselves. They turn their regret outward. They move on. We blame ourselves. We dissect ourselves. We chop ourselves into 4 million pieces. We don't sleep at night for a month. We ruminate like a cow, and we don't move on. And it impacts a lot of things. It impacts our power, it impacts our success. It's counterproductive. It makes us feel worse. It gets in the way. And the longer we ruminate or put off changing the behaviors that are causing us pain, the longer they cause us pain. Ruminating. Letting our radar distract us. Women, we have radar. We scan the environment. We sense things. We intuitive. We pick up a broad range of clues. And it can actually distract us. It really can. And men's focus like a laser. Focus tightly, absorbing information. This is from social scientists say that this is has to do with the fact that way back when men went out and they hunted. They had to be laser focused on whatever that animal is they were trying to get. And women went out and they gathered nuts and seeds and plants, and they had to be scanning the environment and looking for those. Radar can be a strength, but it has a shadow side. It can make it difficult to filter out the distractions that are not helping you, and it can scatter your attention. So be aware of your radar. So how do we change for the better? Well, start with one thing. Start with one thing. And so you go back after this and you look through the list, and we'll post a list or get one to you of the 12 things, or buy the book or look it up. What are the 12 bad habits? Or contact us and we'll be glad to talk with you about it. You're gonna look at them, scan through it, pick 3 that just immediately, and really look at those in detail. And ultimately, you're going to pick one. And you're going to tie your first step into your larger goal or your larger purpose. It looks like this. If your goal is to be on the senior leadership, maybe you need to address your habit of overrating expertise, that bad habit. If you want to be recognized as high potential, maybe you need to tackle your habit of minimizing yourself. So tie your first step to your larger purpose or goal. Break it down into discrete habits. Make those small changes and repeat them. That's how you make a new habit. You just repeat it over and over. You won't become a brand new you overnight. That's not going to happen. You ever thought about your elevator speech? You need to have one. It reflects who you are and what you want to achieve. It needs to be very brief. You need to be able to literally do it within 10 floors of an elevator ride or less. Maybe it's 4 floors if that's all the building has. It's brief, it's concise, it's specific. You thoroughly prepare it, And you can rattle it off like that on a second's notice. And you're going to share it over and over and over again in all kinds of situations. This is what I do. Here's what I intend to achieve. Keep your eye out on me. Your elevator speech. And don't do it alone. It's really difficult to change a habit. You have to be intentional in defining your purpose. You have to be intentional in speaking your purpose. You have to be intentional of sharing your purpose. And you have to be intentional in pursuing your purpose. And it's difficult to do alone. So enlist help. And as you enlist help, might have an accountability partner. Maybe there's something you do in a meeting that's minimizing. Maybe you're starting with, I'm sorry. And you ask an accountability partner who's in those meetings with you, will you give me a signal when I do this so I can stop? Or will you let me know after the meeting? Will you just count how many times I do this so I can be hyper aware? And that's one thing that an accountability partner could do for you. Maybe a peer coach. A peer coach is reciprocal. It's semi-formal. It's ongoing. This is, where you can help them and they can help you, and you work together regularly, hold each other accountable. Or maybe a leadership coach. Maybe you're lucky and you have leadership coaches within your company. Maybe you're even luckier and you can talk to somebody like Lori or me or a member of our team for leadership coaching and executive coaching, career coaching, and go externally. What we would do is we take you down a path of self-discovery. That'd be where we'd start. We'd offer you feedback. We'd offer you feed forward ideas for the future. That's what feed forward is. We'd help you disrupt those familiar patterns, also known as habits, keep you on track, hold you accountable, but don't try to do it alone. The last thing I want to share is these great reads. We talked about what got you here, what get you there. We talked about how women rise. We talked about It's a Sticky Floor. And another one is Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg. So here's the contact information for us. We're going to open this up though for a chat. If you want to contact anytime after this, you can read, there's information here. You can look on our website, harriswhitesellconsulting.com, find information there, contact me page there. You will find that we're prolific. Lori writes for Forbes, I write Business Journal. We have lots of blogs. Sign up for our newsletter. We fill that thing with great useful information and tidbits. Lori has put into the chat already several complimentary, no fee assessments that you can log in and do. She has links for you there, or you can go to our website, maybe around how you communicate and what your communication intelligence is. Maybe it's how you're succeeding in your leadership competencies. We have a leadership evaluation. You'll get an immediate report. You can book a complimentary fee-free 1 hour debrief with us. Contact us. We'd love to hear from you. And right now we'd love to take your questions. So Lori and I will both respond to questions related to this topic.
So everyone, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself at this point. I see some of you, let's see here. I would love for you guys to stay and engage in this deeper dialogue with everyone.
Do we have some questions, comments anyone would like to make? Just unmute yourself.
Hi there, I had a question.
I sent it to Lena.
Great, go ahead.
Share your name with us as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I guess I could pick it up in the morning before I go.
Someone had a question or comment?
Yes, I did. This is Sheena Anthony. I don't know if you can hear my voice.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hey there.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you. This was a really good presentation. Yeah. A lot of these habits really brought me back from my old career till now, and it was kind of, going back in time on some of the things that I've learned along the way, as well as things to look forward to. So this was really wonderful. One of the questions I had was, as we think about these habits, I think, how often should we do kind of a self-check on ourselves, right? To see how many new habits have we developed, or how many habits do we need to work on in the future? So what's a good kind of timing to do something like that?
So another book I'm going to recommend, Sheena, not to recommend too many, is the book by Marshall Goldsmith. And in that one, he really talks about the 6 questions. So it can be daily, and all you're doing there is you're.
Yeah, how you doing? I'm not here tomorrow.
Excuse me real quick, ladies and gentlemen that are out there, if you are speaking or engaging in conversations outside of the webinar, we're hearing you, but it's interrupted.
Good, so they don't call me out.
Okay. Go ahead and mute yourself if you're not attentive. It would be helpful because we wouldn't have background noise.
Can we just unmute Sheena?
There we go.
There we go. Yeah. So the 6 daily habits, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 6 daily questions. So that could be, if you've give a lot of thought to what the questions are you want to ask yourself every day, and you could actually do a daily check, and it takes 5 minutes or less. And you can trend those and look at it, 2 weeks, after a month, whatever it may be. How am I doing on this? You could also, it's going to depend, because the question is, how often should I be evaluating myself as to how I'm doing on my habits? If you have a peer coach or an accountability partner or a leadership coach, you're going to be doing that you may be doing it once a week. You may be doing it every couple of weeks. It's whatever rhythm and pattern works for you to hold yourself accountable. I will say at the beginning of working on a habit, you're going to do that more often, because it's going to be so easy to fall back in the trap of behavior. So you really need to have a focus, and focus on just one at a time. One. You will fail if you try to do 2. One. Lori, do you have anything to add of how often?
Yeah, I would like to add to that, Sheena, that it's going to be very, very important for you, because what got you here won't get you there, right? We know that. But it's going to be very, very important that you assess yourself again, that you begin that process by gathering that data and really digging in and identifying with yourself. So start with that identification process through assessments, and then again, working with your coach or your accountability partners to validate ongoing opportunities to create that value and maximize your excellence. And again, I would duplicate what Lynn just said, but I think you're on the right path, Sheena. Great question.
Thank you.
It all starts with self-awareness. It all starts for some of you with attending this today. It's the start of something great and powerful that's about to happen to you. By your own hands, you're going to do it for yourself, not to yourself, for yourself.
Other comments or questions? Wow, what a great presentation. A lot of food for thought. It sounds like this will be recorded and distributed and available through YouTube, which is always, a great reminder. Any other questions before we close up today? Okay, so I put some information in the chat function, but coming up next is what all the hubbub about Hub, a Hub certification workshop, and that's pre-recorded and can be found on the website and at YouTube at the link in the chat function. You'll also find a link from the Cape Fear Region MED team. Please take a minute to fill out the survey, if you will. And then I put in the chat function also the rest of the MED Week program guide. Again, we'd like to thank our Spotlight Award winner, Victoria of VIDA Translations, for making Cape Fear Region Minority Enterprise Development Week 2020 more inclusive. Yes, thank you very much.
There's a woman on the rise right there.
I'm telling you, a woman entrepreneur. We love it. We greatly appreciate all of you and the teamwork that goes into making this a successful week and program. And thank you to Lynn for presenting and Lori for helping to facilitate, and the UNCW team. So with that, I'll close. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.